So, a very warm official welcome to you to our follow-up webinar, Whispers from Within. So this is not something that Julie and I had planned. We're absolutely following the whispers from within, I guess. We're following wisdom and following the nudge. And we had such a lovely, we had some very lovely comments on the last webinar that we did exactly a week ago, actually. And one of the comments I shared in the email that went out that said this participant she listened to the recording and found the meditation impactful and said, I think you could easily have another hour just sharing about the tight fist. Now, if you weren't on last time's webinar, you won't know what that means yet, but we'll go into that. About the tight fist sensation and how we learn to hold that in our bodies and what that means for pain and how to shift our experience. And I received that email and I was straight away, I contacted, I think it was Sunday afternoon, and immediately got in touch with Julie and said, hey, what do you think about doing another one? Look, we've just been presented, the universe has just presented us this idea. Can you do next Thursday at this time? And I thought, well, if you can't, because I was busy all the other days, and if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. And here we are. It was like she came back immediately and said, I can do half an hour later. I was like, okay, let's do that then. So for me, I love this flow of where we are. We had such lovely interactivity on the last one, and as I say, some really lovely feedback. So we know it's a topic that is interesting to people. Guess that you're here because there's some curiosity for you around this topic, the mind-body connection, and maybe about fascia, and maybe about the tight fist, and maybe just, I don't know why I'm here, but I'm here because that's completely valid too. So yeah, so just in case you don't know who I am, I'm going to introduce myself very briefly, and then Julie's going to do that for herself too. So I'm a coach, I'm an author, I'm a mentor, I'm a three principle, all based in the three principles, and I organise three principle events here on the southeast coast of Spain, where I live and have lived for the last 39 years. It's an absolutely beautiful part of the world. Many people have been out here. People think it's funny because people say, oh, you're the three principles in Spain, aren't you? And I think, no, I'm not. But I know lots of people come here and attend events. So it feels like that a little bit to some people, I think, especially when they're on the other side of the world and they know I organise events. But it has become a popular destination for three principles gatherings. So this is where Julie and I will be running our 3-day retreat at the end of September. And that retreat's called Quiet Mind, Quiet Body. And this is a taster for that. And I realise I've jumped right into that without saying anything else about myself. I guess I'm just trusting that it'll become clear. I've been around the principles 15 years since I was first introduced by Mr. Jamie Smart. Forever grateful for that. Completely changed how I live, how I see life, and how I experience life, for sure. My life has so much more ease in it, and I've realised so much more freedom as well. When I forget, to be perfectly honest, I forget how much I guess I understand about how the mind works and who we really are. And then I bump into people out there in my surroundings and watch people struggle and suffer and blame their circumstances for the way they feel a lot of the time, and communication skills and relationships and all that good stuff could be, in my opinion, if they had some understanding, a lot easier, because that's how I experience my life now. So yeah, that's just a snippet of where I am and where I've been on this 15-year journey, which has been absolutely amazing. I've met some beautiful people, and lots of you here I've connected with in person and online, and it's just a wonderful thing. So very grateful. And I met Julie here. Julie came over, was it 3 years ago, I think, for yeah, I think
Ian Watson, yeah.
Right,
Ian Watson retreat was probably my first
that's right.
venture to Alvear.
Yeah. And Julie, at that point in time, I talked to Julie straight away, and she's, I would say, a little bit shyer than she is now, maybe. But that was my experience of you. but yeah, a woman full of wisdom. So over to you, Julie.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just admitting somebody else there. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm Julie McCammon and I live in Northern Ireland. I'm a physiotherapist or have been working as a physio for over 35 years. And then I came across myofascial release about 9 years ago. And a that's very much part of my sort of healing journey. I was struggling with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia-like symptoms for probably over 15 years, and just had kept pushing through, ignoring my body, and then thought I was going to have to give up work as a physio, but had heard about myofascial release and decided to try it to see if it would let or enable my work to be a bit lighter, so that I could keep working. And for me, that was a real first step into the whole mind body connection world because training as a physio, it was all very linear, very scientific, a very find the problem and fix it sort of a mentality. And when I started to train in myofascial release, it really took me out of my head, away from my thoughts and my thinking and that linear sort of thinking, and took me into my body for the first time. And I'm ashamed to say that even as a physio, I'd been working with bodies for many years up until that point, but I really had no understanding of just the amount of tension and bracing that we hold in our body. And that was a sort of what the question that Sheila, or the comment that Sheila had read out at the start, from the meditation last week. I
Okay,
I
have a good one.
I sort of led you all in a guided meditation that got you to make a fist with your hand and hold it tight as I guided you through the meditation,
Yeah,
and made you aware of what
you're
you
still
were
on.
feeling in that tight fist.
Hold on a second.
And then
No, don't
I got
mention
you to
anything.
release the fist. And a couple of people really commented how it really resonated with them that they were actually holding that tightness and tension elsewhere in their body. And that's really a where I do a lot of teaching and work with my patients around that, just being more aware of what's happening in their bodies. And then I came across the three principles probably about 4 years ago through my husband Peter, who's a coach, and he, like Sheila, did a Jamie Smart's training, and he would try to talk to me about it, and it just went over my head. I said, "What do you mean everything's thought?" And yeah, I couldn't really understand it for a while, and then the penny started to drop slowly, but very powerfully. Just to the impact that our thoughts and our thinking can have on our physical body as well, obviously, because that was my background. So yeah, and then I've introduced the three principles into my work, working with patients with chronic pain, and have written a book which is due out in August, all around that, because I've just been blown away by the results of, just dropping it into my work. So
Mm.
that's me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to her. I have had a pre-read of it. And that's the name of our retreat, Quiet Mind, Quiet Body. It just seemed really apt. So we're going to talk a little bit about the mind-body connection. Although I wonder if we go straight, what about, Julie, if we go straight to the proposal that we had in terms of, why do we instinctively tighten, brace, or hold on, and how that shows up in our body? What's all that about? How does that happen? Like, so we did the tight fist, and I found that really powerful. To know that that's what's happening, and you talked about the blood not being able to flow, and now release it, and now feel how the difference, the softness, and the ease, I would say, the natural. Now we're getting back to our natural state. So how do you see that happens for each one of us in different ways, because we're all bracing different areas. I remember you shared that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know where our weak spots are, generally speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe if I explain a little bit about fascia, first of all, and then tie it in with that. So the fascia is a really strong connective tissue that goes throughout your entire body. Have you the photo of it there, Sheila? You can.
I just remembered that's what I was supposed to do, Julie. So I'm just looking.
Don't worry, I'll keep talking. So yeah, it's a strong connective tissue that goes throughout the entire body. And when I was training as a physio, I was told it was unimportant packaging. But now it there's like fascial congresses throughout the world. And actually, I just read a quote from a clinical anatomist just this week, a guy called John Sharkey, who does anatomy dissections, specifically looking at the fascia in the body. And he said, we need to move away from the idea of body as machine. The body is not a machine to be fixed, but our conscious field to be listened to. So I do believe that the fascia is our consciousness throughout our entire body. But just going back a step to look at the structure of the fascia here, it's made up of these tiny little microtubules, and each little tubule is filled with water and nutrients. And it brings those nutrients to every cell in your body when it's functioning healthily. And when the fascia is healthy, it's nice and viscous and fluid and mobile. But through trauma, which can be either physical or emotional trauma, it starts to solidify. You can see on the left-hand side of the picture that thicker, a white, shiny, a sort of a congealed almost part of the fascia. And that's what happens, the fascia, whenever we do brace or hold tension in our bodies. A We all have, as Sheila said, a unique bracing pattern, and it tends to be our habitual pattern. So when I get anxious or have a fearful thought, it's those parts of my body that start to brace. And when you do that repetitively over time, the fascia does solidify. And as in the tight fist analogy, it restricts and blocks the flow of the fluid and the blood flow to every cell in your body. So that's a little bit about the fascia. The fascia is also incredibly strong. So when it does solidify, it creates a huge compressive force through your organs, your joints, your pain sensitive structures, and it really can sort of wreak havoc in your body. When I started training in myofascial release, a I was shocked by how much I was bracing in my body. I'd been totally unaware of it beforehand. But during the treatment, when a therapist's hands is placed on your body very gently, you come out of your head and into your body. So it's like going on a deep investigative journey inside your own body. And you do become really aware of exactly where you're bracing or clenching. Like my typical pattern is my jaw, my neck and shoulders, and then it would go down into my sort of solar plexus area. And when I came home from training, I was very aware, even just sitting at traffic lights, driving the car, I could feel like a fist of tension and tightness in my solar plexus, just below my rib cage at the top of my abdomen. And I placed my hand gently on it and just thought, okay, just let go. And you can feel it softening and letting go underneath your hand. And that's hopefully what patients experience when they're receiving the treatment. It really helps to calm down your nervous system. And when you're aware of where you're bracing in your body, then you have the choice to either keep bracing or to let go. It's that simple. And if we can learn to let go, then it creates more balance, more openness, more lightness in your body. Like the difference after a really good treatment is amazing. I went for like intensive treatment as part of my training, and I actually grew by, I can't remember, I think it was like 2.5 inches in height. So that just, now it was intensive for 3 weeks, but it just shows you that when the fascia is bracing and tight, it does compress us physically. So you can imagine the effect that that's having on your organs and joints over time. And it's innocent, as in our thoughts and our thinking, our anxious thinking, uh, causes that fascia to brace because it's those thoughts and thinking flow through the consciousness of our body. They're not just in our mind. So of course it's going to have a physical effect on your body. I so yeah, I think that sort of answers that question. Any other bits I left out there, Sheila, or
Not that I can think of right now. I think, again, fascinated. I used that word a lot last week. Yeah, I think it makes so much sense. I was just like, when you said you grew 2.5 inches, I was like, what? That's pretty spectacular.
yeah.
It does make a lot of sense because, yeah, with compression, I mean, my mom, for example, she shrunk, but she was 5'2" and now she's like 4'9", and that happens with age, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Talk about the compression of the spine more than anything. Like, she's stooped over more now and all that sort of thing. But actually, what you're bringing to the table, as far as I can tell, is it's not just that. There's this thing called fascia that we well, you're talking about it as being, I've heard about it being the subconscious of our subconscious. I
Mhm.
heard you use the word conscious. I think I heard you use the word conscious.
Consciousness, yeah.
Consciousness. Okay. So I've heard it as being described as the subconscious, which is interesting.
Mhm.
But I guess it doesn't really matter. We're talking about thoughts and feelings, um, and how and that whole body mind connection is
Mhm.
working in sync all the time, and how both have an effect. Because I was thinking, when you were talking about hands-on treatment with a myofascial release, so that would be the one way of releasing. And I know that people have emotional releases with that
Mhm.
treatment too.
Yeah.
I know we have emotional releases with we are able to have emotional releases with all sorts of hands-on type, whether it's a massage or acupuncture. I know that's happened to me in acupuncture. But also the other way around as well. We know that our minds and our emotions affect the physical. So it can work both ways, right? So would you say, I mean, I know we haven't talked about this, but I'm just really curious now, like, and it feels like this must be true to me, but I'm curious to hear what you've got to say about this. So if people have so we have an insight and something really shifts for us.
Mhm.
That's the only way that I see that long-lasting change happens for us, transformation. We have some insight and suddenly people talk about physical symptoms getting better, disappearing, maybe not immediately, but over time. So would that have an effect on the fascia? Given
Yes.
that you've said it works the other way around. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's it's exactly the same. It's like bringing conscious awareness to where you are bracing, then you have the choice, to continue that bracing pattern or to let go. Like one of the biggest things I noticed was when you get into bed at night and you're lying, with your head on the pillow and you think you're relaxed, if you really come out of your head and into your body and feel the weight of your head on the pillow, you'll be shocked with how much you're actually still holding the weight of your head.
Mm.
You know, it's it's when you come away from the thoughts and thinking that it gives you the opportunity to really feel what's going on in your body and to respond to that by letting go, by melting like butter. And we think we're relaxed, but when you really bring awareness to your body, you'll always find somewhere where you're still bracing or holding. Like I'll tell my patients to relax and if I'm working on their low back, their glute muscles are like this, their bum muscles are tight and they think they're relaxed. And then all of a sudden they'll realize and they'll go, you know, and you can visibly see it like as they let go.
Mm. I know I've been I've been told that, like, somebody, the massage therapist has got my hand and relax. I'm like, I am. No, I am. No, no, you're
Yeah.
not. No, you're not. No, you're not. And it is. It's yeah,
Yeah,
we've got so
it
much
can feel
tension.
quite strange, quite alien because we're so used to just being
Mm,
switched on all the time.
mm. I equate that with being in control.
Yeah,
So wanting to be in control. And
yeah.
I'll speak for myself, and I won't use the global we. I know it's really, really common, but
Hmm.
yeah, I feel it's when you're saying, just talking about, we don't realize how much we process. I imagine, I can only imagine that people in this session suddenly became aware, because I did, about where I might be holding tension. It's like, oh, the shoulders go down a little bit,
Yeah, yeah.
and the feet relax a little bit, and the hands relax a little bit. And when we're trying to control, or when I'm trying to control my destiny, just to use a global term, um, that takes a hell of a lot of effort.
Hmm.
And there is no difference between mind and body. It's one system, so it's going to be felt. It's going to be felt all through the body, not the mind and the body. And
Hmm.
that's where it's having its effect, clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly.
When I started getting treatment, like, or practicing on each other as we were learning the techniques, I was so aware that it basically felt like I had an armor. My body was like an armor, and it took time for that to begin to melt. I But the difference after each, technique was practiced on me, the difference in your body just feels amazing. I
Mm,
and I think in order to get there, you do have to come away from your thoughts and your thinking. It's like that space beyond your thoughts and your thinking. And it's such a beautiful place to be that we don't very often uh, give ourselves that opportunity. We all tend to be so living life from the neck up.
mm. I see your hand up, Wendy. We'll invite you into the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't know if that was going to happen. I actually have to leave in a few minutes. But Julie, thank you. I know I met you last year at Viva briefly. And I do have your little booklet that I see behind you there, the little red colored booklet.
Yes,
Yeah, that one I
rethinking
have. And
pain.
I actually think I have the other one online. But anyway, enough kissing up. What I wanted to say was um, that when you said the fascia system, I'm a nurse, by the way. I'm a nurse that deals with people in chronic pain
Mm,
and among other things I do. But the fascia as consciousness of the body, like that gentleman that just gave you
mm,
that, said, let's stop thinking about trying to fix the machinery.
mm,
Two things came to mind is that we can fix the machinery on Wendy, and let's say Wendy and Sheila both have big fat discs on our MRI, and they're really bothering us. And you get Wendy's disc to get smaller and more in line, and you get Sheila's disc to be smaller and more in line, and Wendy still has back pain. So you can fix machines, but that
mhm.
doesn't mean that the person responds the same.
Yeah.
And the other thing that came to mind when you said was the fascia as consciousness is lately in this conversation of the three principles, I've been translating the word consciousness into awareness. So when I think of the fascia as the part of my body that's aware of
Mhm.
where it is in the world, what it needs to, don't bend over that way right now because your muscles are not quite ready to do that. Bend over. Like there's an awareness that my body's in communication with itself, with me, with the Wendy that is the Wendy, to to care for itself and protect itself. And like you said, there can be a little bit of overprotection and armor, but we haven't known that my independent self can have an impact on that. We just think we're victims of our bodies, doing what it needs to do. But there's such a wonderful interplay between the mind body connection. And I'll just end with one more thing. When I have patients that I take care of that have a particular chronic foot pain problem, I won't bore you with the details, but once a person says they're going to travel to us on the East Coast of Massachusetts, the United States from California, that they can't get this problem fixed in California, but they might be able to get it fixed. Doctor and our team, I tell them before we hang up, I said, guess what? You're going to feel better as soon as you hang up this call, and we haven't even touched your foot, because you have an awareness that help is on the way, and your foot has been hurting you, telling you, hurting you, telling you, I need help, I need something, and you have answered it. And nobody's touched your foot, nobody's seen you in Massachusetts, but I promise you, you're going to feel better because help is on the way. So that's enough out of me, but I just really love this conversation, Sheila. Thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. There's you know what blows me away every time we have these sessions? The wisdom in the room, right? It's like, I just love, and I'm really grateful, and please bring forward anything that you want to ask, anything you want to share, because this is, I don't know about you, Julie, but I don't feel like this is the Sheila and Julie show. This is about
Definitely not.
this is the combined wisdom. We there's one divine intelligence, and we can all tap into that. Look at people are putting their hands on. I love it. There's one divine intelligence, and people are tapping in. We can all tap into that intelligence. And what I'm so sure in myself, I'm so certain that when one person shares, it's for somebody else. It's not just for that person. So please, Lorraine, I can see your hands up. Would you? I'm gonna call on you now because I can see your hands up, and then I was going to say the digital hands. But you go first, Lorraine.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Yeah, Julia, I remember it reminded me of many years ago. I was on a retreat somewhere, and I got a massage in North Devon, and she instinctively knew that I've got this hard knot in my solar plexus area. And I was hanging on to a lot of grief, and the therapist just instinctively knew that. And I love a massage. I'm a therapist myself who doesn't look after myself all that well sometimes, but I do love a massage. But this was like nothing on earth, because she gave me a stomach massage. Now, most therapists don't really go there, or they'll do a very light transverse colon thing, but this was a really in-depth stomach massage. And she kept saying to me, you'll probably have an emotional release. And she was doing it, and she was going, anything coming up? I was like, no, nothing, I'm fine, nothing. And she carried on deeper and deeper. And then eventually I had this amazing release, which I had time to release because I was actually on a retreat at the time. And the tears just flowed. And it was the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. But I never really thought of it in terms of fascia release. But I've had plenty of massages since, but no one has ever, it's never impacted me like that before. And I was just wondering, from your perspective as a therapist, I felt that was enough for that one session. It was very deep, but I've often wished I could have followed that on with a few more treatments. But I don't know anybody who does that. So I just wanted your thoughts on that. One treatment, great, and it was amazing, but I really did feel like there was, more to go, really.
Yeah, I think sometimes if you put pressure on yourself, though, by expecting that the next time you go for a massage, it's sort of you're attached to the outcome, which very often doesn't get you the results you're looking. I think when we're attached to the outcome, our thoughts and our thinking get in the way but
But yeah,
your body will have released what no longer serves it. You know, it will have let go of something that it needed to let go of. And that's the beauty of an emotional release. You don't need to work it out. You don't need to go back into the past and think, oh, is that connected with, you know, that trauma or that incident? You just need to trust your body's wisdom that it's letting go of something that no longer serves it.
brilliant. It's just generally in a full body massage, nobody does the stomach area. And
Yeah.
it feels,
Yeah.
it feels like that's what I need. But yeah,
Yeah.
no.
With myofascial release, we do actually a lot more treatment through the front of the body. And yet when I was a physio, most of the treatment was through the back of the body. You know, you're treating a spine or yeah. So that was a big adjustment for me as well. But it just you know, it makes sense because we hold so much internally and you can get at it better through the front of the body.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lorraine. You want to go to Molly?
Hello. Hi.
Oh.
Am I sideways?
No, you're right way up. You're right way up.
Okay. So thank you, Julie. Last week, the penny dropped in a big way, so much so that as soon as the call was over, I was like, find a practitioner, and made an appointment with someone who studied with Barnes, and it was for the very next day. And I have been in the principles understanding over 30 years. And and there have been some, you know, moments of tremendous insight, but I've also sensed that there's been a kind of a cerebral thing that has, where I felt ashamed that I was still holding trauma, because even the people, the 3P types who will poo-poo that there's such a thing as trauma being held in the body. And so I've sort of tried to kind of, you know, think the right stuff, and like, no, it's just your thinking. Yeah. And it's like, it hasn't really made a dent in this deep contraction in mostly my pelvis. And there was something you said last week that it was like bing, that you know, when under the hand of the therapist, that the fascia melts and there's nothing you have to do to process it or even know what it's about. And I was like, find a practitioner. and it was such an interesting session last Friday with this woman. It was overstimulating, both. Well, she asked me lots of questions for 45 minutes and it was intrusive, and her touch was, I actually said, it's kind of herky jerky. I said, you know, I was like, yeah. And there were many times during the session where it's like, I can't stand this. And the typical part of me was like, just hang on, it'll be over soon. And it was like, no. I said, no, please stop. Please stop. I told you I'm unusually sensitive to touch, and your touch is, it's really not right for me. I mean, it feels, you know, at one point she was pressing on my head and I'm like, God, you know? And so it was a really it was a very positive experience, because what a relief to be so honest. And she was like, by the end, she's like, that's never happened. I said, well, you know, now it has. I like you. But it was my body talking and just saying no, and me listening and respecting it. So now I have another appointment with someone else in a couple of weeks. But I wonder if you could, because you said something earlier today about, you know, this refinement that's in the fascia, and that it's a you know, aspect or embodiment, I'm not sure what the words were, of consciousness. And looking at that photo of the fascia, I was just like, it's so sophisticated, and we're only beginning to understand. And in my own studies, I've been very much into, like, no, the body's not a machine. And anyway, I'll stop going on. But any comments on any of the
Well, I think initially my response is I'm really sorry you had an experience like that. But I'm really proud that you said, you know, to stop when you honored your body and you listened to your body. Every myofascial release therapist is different, you know, but personally, John Barnes would tell us not to speak during the treatment
Yeah,
because you're taking the patient out of their body and into their head.
right.
I would use very gentle guidance, just keep pulling you back into your body. But I
Yeah,
wouldn't ask you any questions or, you know, but yeah, I don't want to start criticizing. But yeah, that sounds very different from what
yeah,
my understanding is.
yeah.
But it was good that you listened to your body and stood up for yourself.
In many ways, it put me way more in touch with my body. And because she would ask me stuff and I wouldn't answer, because it's like, but also I think something that came from it was where this habitual pain and tremendous tension has been forever. Suddenly there was way more compassion for myself, for whatever that is. And also, I think hanging out with the principals for so long, I was for 30 years doing a number on myself, like, what's your problem? Don't you know it's just your thinking? Get over it. It was just cruel.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you for setting me on a new adventure.
Thanks for sharing, Molly.
Yeah, thank you, Molly. I think just to highlight, I've heard this term, weaponizing the three principles against you, and I totally relate to that as well, thinking I should know better. And you know, 15 years I've been exploring this understanding, 15 years of staying in the conversation, looking deeper. Surely I shouldn't be having this symptom, and I shouldn't feel this feeling, or I shouldn't, you know, that's a perfect example, isn't it, of the three principles in action. That's how it works. We experience what we're thinking in the moment, and then so that looks different, but that seems to be in a different category. It's like, but actually it's all any thought, and it is all, we're experiencing everything we think, we're feeling everything we think, aren't we? At all points in time, and it's just pointing us back again. That feeling is pointing us again to maybe we're not seeing the truth of who we really are. Maybe we're not seeing the truth of being in a quiet mind, being at peace, being in our
And I would say that thought with a capital T is way more than whatever it is we think of as thoughts. But it's encompasses everything.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Katie, you have your hand up. Are you there? Yeah, you are.
Hi. I wasn't on the previous call, but it sounds really interesting. I wanted to ask about hips, Julie. So that you see a lot of stuff on Facebook about somatic release of hips and something. I'm 58. My right hip has started to give me jip. It's been going on for like about 18 months. And I've noticed over time that my ability to sort of part my legs has just kind of got less and less and less. And a little while ago, I was doing something with someone with that TRE, with that shaking thing that's supposed to sort of help release and relax. Anyway, recently I thought I really need to do something about this. I think make an appointment to go and see a physiotherapist. I'm not going to waste time with the GP because I've had an X-ray. It shows some deterioration, normal for my age, right? But there's something in me. I've sort of had meditative conversations with my groin, as if there's some tightness held there to do with something I don't even know what. But I've kind of seen images to do with kind of like war and stuff. And so what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me. And so I'm just curious now if like hip surgery and physio and everything is like completely not necessary and you just need to do myofascial release. Like if, I mean, this is a bit personal, but if I go for a cervical smear, they sort of say, can you open your legs a bit wider? I'm like, no, I really can't. And it's like that tightness is that just an aging thing, or is there something that the body's holding on to there? And I wondered if you have thoughts on hips and where they come into the picture of my face.
Yeah, hips and the pelvic floor is a very common area where we brace as well, and we're not aware of it. And it can be like on one side more than the other. So that then pulls your pelvis slightly out of alignment. So that's how it shows up in your body. How, when we instinctively brace or hold a certain area of fascia, because the fascia is continuous throughout the entire body and it's uninterrupted, it can be tight in one area and it can create a drag and a pull through the system. So very often when I look at someone's body, I look at them lying on their back on the table and I look at their leg length, I look at their pelvis alignment to see if there's like a torsion or an upshift in the pelvis, because as I said earlier, the fascia is incredibly strong. So wherever it's bracing, it will be pulling things out of alignment. It may be pulling the hip joint into compression and causing that wear and tear to be more than it should be. But yes, I know not everybody can access a myofascial release therapist. So that's why I think it's important that we offer you other options as well, which would be, the guided meditations. I'm going to do another one shortly. That really help you to tune into your body. Because if you're aware that you've tightness in your groin, if you can really feel that on a deeper level, you can release it yourself.
Okay. And it was just the sort of, the somatic things that you see on Facebook about hip openers and all of that. It sounds quite dramatic, and what you're talking about sounds much more intuitive, if you know what I mean. I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe you don't even need hip surgery if you can kind of, tune to your body and kind of give it the kindness that it's asking for, maybe.
Yeah, there are other things that we would do in the myofascial world, like jiggling, which is like a standing, just a starting to jiggle up and down basically, and that increases the fluidity and the fluid in the fascia. So there are other things that we will be doing on the retreat, that will help, the things that you can take away and do yourself. There's also a thing called fascial unwinding, where you can unwind your own body, which we'll be doing on the retreat as well, which really does get in at those restricted areas, and helps you to release them yourself. By doing these things, it increases your interoception, which is really your internal awareness, which we're all not very good at. It does take a little bit of practice and a little bit of effort to become more aware of your inner landscape, really.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks.
I'm just looking at the time and
Yeah.
wondering if we have time for the meditation. But I wanted to, before we decide on that, I think it's a really good point. You've just mentioned the retreat, and I just think it's such a, couple of minutes just to talk about what we are going to be up to in Spain, and there's obviously an incredible interest in this, and I'm not surprised. I jumped at the chance when Julie said she wanted to run a retreat, and having met her here in Spain 3 years ago when she came up with it. I had the idea of, I can't remember, I think it was the end of last year, something like that, beginning of this year. Anyway, so we said we'd team up and we'd have conversations with over 3 days. We'll have conversations, 3 principles-based conversations where we're going to be talking about the fascia. We're going to be talking about the mind-body connection. We're going to be talking about the 3 principles and how it all works, how it all fits together. And I went to a yin yoga class this morning. For those of you who don't know what yin yoga is, it's basically getting in touch with really passive yoga. You hold a pose for a minimum of 3 minutes. And sometimes today there was one that was 5 minutes long, believe it or not. But while I was on the yoga mat, it just felt so this is where it's at. This is being present with my body. This is me listening to what's happening in my body right now. And the instructions from the teacher are wonderful. It's mind, body, and spirit she talks to. And it was like, this is what we're offering over a 3-day period. We're offering people to come here and to really drop into that space and be able to really feel into what our bodies are telling us. Really, really. And something that I had that feels really true to me is our bodies, our physical bodies, the physical body is the closest thing to truth that we have. Thoughts, thinking, conditioning, all that is given to us, let's say. But the physical body is the communication channel, and it's as close to truth, and it gives us feedback, immediate feedback of what's happening all the time. So it feels so important to me right now that we are in touch with what's happening physically in this container. I don't know what else to call it, in this container. And so having Julie in the afternoons, evenings, we'll have a couple of hours each evening in the studio where I was doing the Pilates, the yoga this morning, where as she said, she's going to be teaching us how to unwind fascia and how to listen to our bodies and you can talk a bit more about that, Julie, perhaps. I know you're bringing some softballs with you. You mentioned that on the last call. Yeah. I'm just really excited for us to have this combo, this dual channels into what's happening for us. It feels really, really precious. I don't know, there's something about it that feels very sacred to me at the moment. Yeah. Did you want to say anything else about the afternoon sessions, the evening sessions?
Just that there would be a combination of guided meditations, body scans, a self-myofascial release using the ball. It's like a soft round ball. And I'll bring the bigger ones as well because they're brilliant for opening the chest area. And yeah, other little techniques like self-unwinding and jiggling, they're all so helpful just to add to and encourage you to just listen to the wisdom of your own body.
And one other thing to add, given that so much interest in the myofascial release, what we haven't said, it is on the page, but we've not said before, is you are going to be offering one-to-ones, right? You're going to do the treatment, which I'm so looking forward to. You get Julie hands-on. She's offering her one-to-one work out here the day after, I believe, we finish the retreat. So that's on offer as well if you come out. And I'm not saying anything more. Obviously, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. So, but yeah, what do you think, Judy? Do you want to, can you?
I have, it's just about, it's shorter than 10 minutes. So if you guys are happy, I'd love to just lead you in a very short meditation called Exploring the Wasteland Within. So if you can lie down, you're welcome. Or you can just sit and close your eyes. Feel free to turn your cameras off if you want. And let's just spend the last 10 minutes just listening to our bodies. So exploring the wasteland within. Find yourself sitting or lying comfortably. Take 3 deep breaths in and out. In through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Continue breathing at your own natural pace. On each of your out breaths, feel your body letting go and melting. Sink into the space behind your eyes, where all your thoughts and thinking reside. Choose to be present here and now with your body. Bringing your awareness to your jaw, allow it to soften. Letting your teeth fall slightly apart and allow your tongue to rest on the floor of your mouth. Allow your throat to soften and let go. Let your shoulders drip towards the floor as you soften and let go. Bringing awareness to your chest and abdomen. Letting go of any areas of anxiety or tension. Feeling your pelvis and tailbone. Imagine roots growing down towards the earth as you ground yourself in the here and now. I'd like you to take a moment to consider the parts of your body that are holding tension. Let's not avoid all that is. Let's walk inside with grace and presence as we acknowledge there is a moment when we decide to brace. A moment when we get stuck in the space between the questions and the answers. But before we can release the crushing weight of our sadness and pain, we have to first honor its existence. Only when we are brave enough to explore our internal wasteland will we discover that there is a gift to unwrap. By coming into a deeper relationship with your own body, you will find healing as you listen to the wisdom that lies beneath your skin. Healing is not in the wisdom that someone else offers you. It's an inside job. With your eyes closed, enter this unknown territory and explore your own unknown depths. I'd like you to think of a situation in your life that feels charged. A situation that causes some concern. As you think about it, what do you feel in your body? Where do you feel it in your body? Is it close to the surface? Or is it deep inside? What size is it? Does it have a color? If you can, comfortably place your hand on this part of your body. I want you to really imagine what it looks like on the inside, under your skin, under your hand. Breathe in all the way into the root of this area. Now ask yourself, what could this place of discomfort teach me? What gift is hidden in the depths of this discomfort? What am I resisting? Step towards. Choose to explore, for there is great wisdom inside. The place we are avoiding can bring us learning and the gift of love. Step forwards into your edge. Turn towards the tension. Open your eyes as you explore the depths of your own discomfort. Choose to go deeper into unknown places. Breathe yourself wide open. Dive in, bringing love. Therein lies your liberation. A shedding of the old as you land here in your beautiful, beautiful body. Making your home in presence. Being present in your body. Coming home to yourself. Embrace all that lies beneath as you allow the light into your darkness. You begin to weave new strands of golden thread through what once was your wasteland. Now, buds are beginning to bloom. This is where running stops and life begins to flourish deep inside your bones. Remember, you are the hero of your own journey. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight.
Good place to leave it, Julie. Is that what we're doing? Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. And I just want to say I would love to hear any on not now, but on email.
Mm.
We'll send the recording out, and any feedback that you have for us, and anything, any changes that you notice, anything that comes up for you, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, early bird for our retreat ends tomorrow. We'd love to have you with us.
Judy, I'll send you the recording from last week. I just see your message there.
I said I'd send it out an email
Oh,
tomorrow. Yeah.
okay, perfect. Thanks.
Okay. All right, take care, everybody. Have a lovely rest of the day, evening, wherever you happen to be. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.